Welcome to The Brief. In other podcasts of the series on the solar energy sector in India, we spoke about the various issues and challenges affecting the sector, from policy and infrastructure readiness to GST implications and domestic manufacturing capabilities. But in that light, it is also important for us to look at India as an investment opportunity and the concerns for financing that are prevalent in the sector. The step-brotherly treatment meted out to solar energy on account of the scales being tilted towards the incumbent thermal energy sector resulted in not only a lot of policy paralysis for solar, but also a lot of issues related to procurement, pricing and demand. Inevitably, assets in solar came under a lot of stress and the investor sentiment towards solar was worsened. While some of the older opinions and misconceptions about solar have trickled into today's times, there is a noticeable change in global mindset towards clean and renewable energy. Maybe it is the global mandate for sustainability that is driving the change. But it is important to note that India, as an investment opportunity and business destination, sits at the heart of this change. In fact, there has always been a recognizable interest from foreign investors in Indian solar. But to innovate for the present and future, especially for businesses and investors, learning from past failures of investments in solar would be a useful thing. More so, for investors looking into the future, it is important to know where the sector is headed in terms of technologies, innovations, as well as demand and market adoption. To get these insights, we spoke to the country's leading body on solar energy. Subrahmanyam, CEO at that federation, shared his thoughts with us.
There was an article I was reading yesterday that how renewables didn't quite get the financing game, and to some extent it is true. I'll start the story from NSEFI side, where we have fought with RBI for 9 months to carve out a special structure for solar and wind companies so they can give us a special status. So we pay back the dollar loan in rupees. And after 9 months of continuous follow-up and struggle and explanation, RBI accepted it. So we went to that extent to facilitate foreign funds influx for facilitating our members to raise funds. Then suddenly Andhra Pradesh happened. So the investor confidence, what happened, it was, I won't say it was very good and it became very bad, but it was not good and it turned out also not good. So that is one issue that was a big problem for us. Second part, we look at it on the macro scale, but let us go to the micro scale. Like I told you, commercial and industries, commercial and institutions, they are the ones who want to shift to solar because their electricity bill inherently is high. For them, in MSME segment, which forms the backbone of the country, the challenge of raising finance is very, very big, and it becomes stupendous for them to raise finance. So even there we are unable to facilitate loans or micro loans or kind of cooperative segment there. So both sides, I think we are still figuring out. One way would be to solve on the macro scale. Like I said, you have a priority sector lending, so banks will have this mandate that this much % of your investment into national infrastructure will go to energy. So to some extent our members will feel okay, that these people are there. Apart from going to these pension funds and all CPDQ, they anyhow give you at low interest. But if people are interested in Indian funds, then they'll go with it. On the micro scale, we personally think that there needs to be an innovation in the financing mechanism for solar plants for both institutions. You see, individual consumers, so I won't comment because many people have many different opinions and there can be many ways that can be done. But that is a small scale. But my focus is on commercial industries. So there, for MSMEs, I think it would be worth examining on how it can be financed so that they'll also achieve, because these people have already used their assets for collateral, so now they can't use it again for raising funds, or even if they do, the amount they'll get is very less. So how we can aggregate the demand, how financing can be done, there needs to be an innovation there. So that will go a long way into helping these people in realizing, one, they're decreasing their electricity bill, which will have an impact on their turnover, and second, installing more solar capacity in the country, which will again help us become more energy resilient and sustainable. There has always been, there will continue to be, because see, we are at the right juncture of the world's energy evolution journey, because we are not too much as a giant that we move slow, that whatever investment comes will have small returns in a longer period, and we are not too backward that whatever investment comes will take a lot of time to get merged and then turn into this thing. So though people call us a developing economy, we still are at a very good position to command the way this investment will give return. Be it infrastructure, be it energy, be it anything. Because we have young population, we have things that are not too dynamic in terms of both political landscape as well as the policy landscape. And third, we have the demand. And even in electricity, this is a controversial topic. If I say we have a demand, we might eventually end up having demand. So these things are lucrative for any sensible investor. When it comes to the most promising part of the entire industry, no doubt it is a decentralized energy segment, rooftop, microgrids and all, because that is unexplored. We have huge potential of that, and any new innovation that comes up there will definitely have a very big impact on the market. So that is the reason many people are targeting that segment along. But at the same time, the unsung warrior here is the allied technologies for large scale plants. Starting from asset management, operation, maintenance, this forecasting, these things form so much integral part of this ecosystem that after some time you can't imagine any solar plant without these services inbuilt. Both the grid demands it and industry demands it. So that segment is very lucrative. I mean, my answer might be biased because I come from that background, but it's still, even after 2 years, I was in the domain 3 years back when it was not cool. Today, every new person is venturing into the domain because it has a potential. For a guy who is owner of 1 megawatt, he has only 1 megawatt. For a guy who's operating and maintaining 1 megawatt, he has 1 megawatt every day to operate and maintain. That is something that is worth exploring and worth looking for, and it's most promising. But I'm pretty much sure eventually we'll end up with our own services offering propositions that do more value addition to already installed assets than the conventional ones. One thing that we are currently working on with Indo-German Energy Forum is understanding the potential of agrivoltaics in the country. Co-locating agriculture with PV. Because in Kusum there is a component for that. 500 kilowatt to 2 megawatt of solar plant on agricultural lands. We think there are two visions of government which are going on in parallel, and if both of them can be combined, it will be very good. So one is the 100 gigawatt by 2022. Second is doubling the farmers' income by 2022. Why don't we combine both? Having solar on agricultural lands will be an additional source of revenue and a constant source of revenue to farmers. And we are also investigating how the crop below the panel can increase the yield. So it's still in the process. So that is a very good opportunity that it is worth exploring, and I think I'm very happy that government put that, if not explicitly, but somewhere in the lines about this part in the Kusum scheme. The second important thing is the transmission infrastructure. Work about green corridor is still in progress. Looking at the intermittency of the renewable energy generation or proliferation, I think it would be worth having a infrastructure resilient enough to carry the influxes that are there. Because when the colonial grid was being planned, it was never anticipated that a consumer can become a producer. Now when it is happening, of course there are said to be some bottlenecks. So how to solve that will directly reflect in how we are successful in integrating rooftop into the system. Large scale projects, of course, government is taking initiatives. Green corridor is coming up, specifically for green channel for solar and all those things.